Hi there, I'm adhd, and I'm just in a silly, goofy mood. I'm also definitely not filming this on the same day as the Etsy video. Don't know what you're talking about. Pay no attention to the similarities in my makeup. Last night, during a bout of insomnia, I saw a tweet from this person, and it struck a nerve. I'm a little peeved. I'm a little PO'd, pissed off. It mentioned a TikTok about ADHD, where it was just like seen as like a quirky thing, and it just like immediately ignited this whole rant in my head, and I wrote this whole script when I should have been sleeping. I actually wrote 3 scripts last night. I don't know what I was thinking. And so today, before I started filming, I was like, okay, so I wonder if I can find that video this person was talking about, or if I can find other videos of people doing the same thing. Not that I really wanted to see that, but I just wanted to see how much of it was out there. Thankfully, it seems like more people on TikTok, or at least the videos that were being pushed to me, are actually genuine people who have ADHD and are using humor to just kind of like laugh at themselves and their frustrations. There, was one video in the comments that I think like kind of became a big deal. Maybe that was actually the video that they were reacting to. I don't wanna play no games, play no games. I don't wanna play no games. Whoa, what the fuck? I think the reason why it struck a nerve with me is because of my own experience and I guess origin story with ADHD. I guess TikTok tends to do that with a lot of different experiences, romanticizing things that should not be romanticized. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised because I'm sure that stuff is still out there, but I was kind of disappointed because I think our generation has done a very good job of breaking down the barriers and walls of like talking about mental illness and other disorders and just ourselves and what goes through our brains, fostering online communities and bringing awareness and creating spaces where people can connect with others. There's still an issue with people accidentally or maybe intentionally furthering stereotypes about ADHD, and I just wanted to talk about that really quickly. First, some background stuff. I was diagnosed with ADHD in 2019, so it's pretty new as far as my other disorders and mental illnesses go. It's only been about 2 years, almost 3. I feel like I learn something new every day, especially because I, am part of some of these online communities for ADHD, like on Twitter and now TikTok. But it's different because I also have depression and anxiety, classic duo. I've had depression for 12 years, so I am very much settled into my life with depression and how that feels. I wouldn't say I'm comfortable with it because I feel like that's a dangerous word to use, especially given the theme and topic of this video. I know it very well. It's very familiar to me. On the other hand, being diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, I was 22, I think. It was kind of a surprise. I wasn't expecting it at all because the therapist who was doing the test, it was kind of like an interview. I don't know if that's how it is for everybody, but I was in a counseling session and she started to do the test for bipolar disorder and was asking me questions, and I just answered honestly because I don't know how to do anything else. But like she kept kind of, when I would answer, made kind of a strange face. Halfway through, she switched to the ADHD test. Like she pulled out, she's like, let's do this instead. And so I was diagnosed with ADHD. I'd actually a couple months before tried to take home like a packet to be diagnosed, but I lost it. So there's our first clue. But even then, it was not like my experience with other mental illnesses. I mean, I was 13 when I started to develop depression and, anxiety, but it was more like, oh, okay, I know that that's what this is. With ADHD, it was still kind of like, not that I didn't believe it when she diagnosed me, but it was definitely more of a surprise. It was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess. I have a sibling who also has ADHD. Actually, there's quite a few of my family members who are neurodivergent. Also, I know I can't say that word. I've tried. I put an I in there. I can't say, how do you say it? I've got the computer. I'm gonna awaken the beast just for this. How do you spell it?
Neurodivergent.
He kind of says neuro. I say neuro. Anyway, I have a lot of family members and siblings who are neurodivergent. One of my siblings was diagnosed as a child, and their symptoms are a lot more observable than mine are, and they're very different. At least they were when we were kids. Even then, the stereotype of ADHD was so like cemented in my brain, and I was so exposed to that and used to it. When they were diagnosed, I would be like, oh, well, I'm not like that, or I don't do those things, so I don't have ADHD, even though in the back of my mind it always lingered, and I was drawn to characters who had some of the same symptoms as me. I researched and wrote an ADHD character that was also full of stereotypes. And so I still was kind of surprised that I have ADHD and that I'm neurodivergent, because that still stuck in my mind. The stereotype of an obnoxious 8-year-old child who can't sit still and, you know, chases after butterflies. If I hadn't been so exposed to that stereotype, I maybe could have gotten diagnosed sooner. I maybe could have gotten medicated sooner. My life would be completely different. For years, I brushed off any signs that I identified with ADHD because I told myself, well, I don't do those things. I must not have ADHD. And the reason why I feel like it's so dangerous is because people who are shitty and like to say that ADHD isn't real or you're faking it, say ableist things, it just kind of fuels them because it makes light of a very complex situation. That stereotype excludes people like me who don't fit the mold of what is generally perceived as ADHD. Picking out aspects of a disorder or a mental illness and displaying them as quirky and cute hurts those who struggle with all of the symptoms every day. I'm sure there's a lot of other people like me who didn't see themselves in the stereotype and so went undiagnosed and untreated for a long time. I am very lucky to be in the situation that I am. Like, I have been diagnosed, I have access to medication. I have a lot of neurodivergent family members who understand me and can identify with me in the symptoms that I experience. Along the same vein, I thought I'd talk about some of the things that I uniquely struggle with ADHD, because I feel like awareness is important. Talking about my experience is important. It may help someone. The whole reason why I know about some of the symptoms that I have is because people were talking about them online, and that visibility is important. This is more of a different kind of video than I usually do. Usually I'm reacting to something weird. This time you'll be reacting to something weird, and that something will be me. My symptoms have definitely worsened as I've become an adult. From what I've seen, I guess that happens with people who have undiagnosed ADHD. The first one is pretty big, and I haven't seen many people talk about this problem, to the point where I worry that it's not even ADHD, that I'm just weird and I'm the only one in the world who has this problem, and that I should go see a doctor about this one and only, Audrey disease. It has to do with food fixations and eating and trying to get myself eat. Trigger warning for those of you, if that's a sensitive topic, if there's anything about struggling to eat, huge trigger warning. I don't want to trigger anybody. It's not worth it. I guess trigger warning for binge eating as well. So if you don't want to hear about anything like that, skip to this timestamp. So yeah, food fixations are what I call my really intense, I guess cravings is not really a good word. It's more like my brain for a certain period of time only set to handle certain foods. I don't know why this is. I know there's like sensory things that go on with ADHD and people who are neurodivergent, so maybe this is part of it for me. This is one of the things that has worsened over time. I don't know if it's because I'm just barely getting medicated and treated for it. Or if it's partially because my awareness now of it means that I recognize these patterns. Sometimes by doing that, it makes it harder to resist. But basically, I'm not really explaining this well. My brain will latch on to one like meal or snack, whatever kind of food, for a period of time. The most famous one, my nachos fixation, I had it like around Thanksgiving one year, and then for maybe 6 weeks afterwards I would eat it almost every day. One day when it was the strongest, I had nachos 5 times, like 5 different individual plates of nachos, and I couldn't stop.
Hi, it's Editing Audrey, here to tell you that I did not explain this very well. I was sleep deprived when I filmed this. I filmed the Etsy video real fast. I went right into the ADHD video on 3 hours of sleep. And I don't really script out my video. I said I wrote a script for this video, but even then it was like I wrote maybe 8 lines and I was like, that's scripted right there. So much of my video is just me saying things on the fly, like right now. So I wanted to make clear, this made it sound like I can only eat, let's say, a grilled cheese and tomato soup for every meal every day. That's my current fixation, grilled cheese and tomato soup. But that's not exactly true. In this whole journey of feeding myself, I've learned that it's better just to have something to eat that I know I will want to eat in the moment than adhering to what is traditionally maybe a breakfast food or a lunch food or a dinner food. What I didn't mention is I can also just eat a group of snacks at the same time and call it a meal. That's actually what happens more often. And that creates a situation where I just carry a big bag of snacks with me at all times. Everybody at work every day sees me walk in with this gigantic bag of snacks, and that's what I eat. It's also just kind of, you know, people with ADHD are famous for their catch-alls, every surface covered with clutter. This is just holding a lot of different things right now. So mainly what my eating habits consist of is 1 to 2 times a day eating whatever my fixation meal is, grilled cheese and tomato soup right now. Other times grazing from my big bag of snacks. So right now we've got my Chips Ahoy, well, this is empty. I ate them last night. My Chips Ahoy brownie filled cookies, which are the best ones. I've got some stir fry just in case. Got a bag of beans. I keep one of these little pouches. This is not a pouch. A little cup of mac and cheese with me. These 2 things I bought for a gummy taste test video in September. So they just kind of sit as honorary members of this bag, and I carry them around endlessly with no intention of actually eating them. I don't know if it's even safe to do so. This gummy sliders really lost some of its squish. It's becoming more dense as time passes, and this taco doesn't look that appealing. I always have a canister of Pringles, and then as I eat, especially at work, I throw all of my garbage in here, so it turns into a garbage bag as well, which is very handy. So there are lots of fruit snack wrappers in the bottom of this bag. So there you go. Food fixations explained. I eat 1 meal and several snacks, and that's how I feed myself. Half this bag is just trash by now. I'll probably be back because I have a feeling that I did not explain other things very well. All right, bye. Only wanting to eat one type of food makes feeding myself and buying groceries an absolute hell. You know, I have limited funds. Obviously, I have a budget for food, and I can't just waste money buying things that I know I'm not going to eat. And it kind of sucks, especially when I'm in between fixations, when I can kind of feel one slipping, but I haven't found the next thing yet, and so I keep buying the old thing and then not eating it, and that's really frustrating because I just wasted money on it. Some other food fixations I've had, ravioli was the most recent one. The one I kind of have now is breakfast foods. The problem with the food fixations is not only does it drastically affect the groceries that I buy, I know that if I don't find something that I want to eat that I can stomach, I just won't. I can just ignore the hunger pains in my tummy. I kind of just like wander the kitchen like an idle sim and like open the fridge and close it and look in the pantry, and I just like will end up not eating anything because also the mental energy of trying to make food overpowers the need to eat food. I don't think I've had fruit or vegetable of my own volition, like out of my own stash, for months. And that's another issue. Healthy eating is pretty much impossible at this point. Like if I had a lot of money to amass this giant food stash and kind of experiment within that space, it wouldn't be as much of an issue. But the problem is, again, I have limited funds. I have my own place now. I have bills. I can only spend so much on food, so I might as well just buy things that I know I'm going to eat. I've seen posts talking about kind of some of these issues, and I've seen that it's better just to eat something than to try to eat the right thing. So that's kind of the philosophy I've adopted at this point. Hello again. I did not explain this part very well either. Basically, the post that I saw that was helpful to me was if you're having trouble feeding yourself, but you're stuck on, oh, but this thing that I could eat isn't healthy, it's better for your body just to get something into your stomach than running the risk of not eating because you're not eating something healthy. A Big Mac is better than nothing. I'm not a nutritionist. I say all this knowing that it's unhealthy. I also wanted to make it clear that I have brought this up to my therapist just this last week because it's something that has been bothering me a lot more lately, and he's talking to a nutritionist friend of his to see if there's anything, we could come up with. Like I said, I do want to have a better system. I have to just get something into my stomach, and it's easier to make that happen when it's a food that I know I will eat. Yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say. As I continue to learn about myself and how to solve this very specific frustrating problem, I will come up with a better system. And that's another thing. I mentioned being able to stomach foods. Adderall suppresses my appetite, and so that's another issue. I don't eat nearly as much as I should. My brain is, I'm either I'll work, no eat, or I'll eat, no work. And I kind of need to work. So it's frustrating. Anyway, I hope some of that made sense, and I hope
none of you got triggered. I also have TV show or media fixations, like video games is another one. I will cycle through watching either Frasier for the 50th time, I don't know how many times I've watched it all the way through, or different YouTubers on YouTube. I kind of switch back and forth. It's either TV show or YouTubers, and it's always just one channel. I always have to have that going on in the background. I can't just like out of the blue, if I've been watching Frasier this entire time, watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because it literally causes chaos in my brain. Just feel really like, you know, like that, like disrupted, and like, oh no, this is not the right, you know, background music for my brain. Even if I am kind of sick of whatever I'm watching at the time, I will still just turn it on because I need that there so that I can do whatever task, you know. I can't handle silence. That does make filming videos interesting. Another huge frustrating thing about it is that I will endlessly tell myself, oh, I'll watch that new thing later. Like if a YouTuber that I'm not watching at the time has a new video, I will just put it off because my brain is not ready for it yet. It can only handle one thing at a time. And so like I haven't seen the last handful of videos that Danny Gonzalez has posted because I've been in the Frasier phase. I like that channel. I like the videos, and I know I would enjoy them if I watched them, but I can't watch them right now. It's the same with seasons of my favorite show that have gone unwatched. You know, I still haven't started WandaVision or any of the new MCU stuff that's come out. Still haven't seen the second season of, what's that called? The Mandalorian. I haven't seen the final season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, even though it's one of my favorite shows. It all just gets pushed off until later, until like by chance somehow I pick it up again. Another huge issue with me is RSD, which I didn't even know existed until I'd seen people talking about it online. And that's something that affects me so much.
One of the most complicated and misunderstood parts of living with ADHD is how our brains perceive rejection. And I want to be very clear, RSD is not a diagnosis. Instead, it's a phrase that we use to describe the trauma that many of us deal with when faced with perceived or real rejection. But the problem is that sometimes our brain fills in the gaps for us. I like to kind of explain it in terms of sewing. When we sew, we usually seam like pieces together, create that connection. My friend didn't text me back today. Well, they're probably busy, and that's okay. But for people who struggle with RSD, it can look more like this. My friend didn't text me back today. Therefore, they never liked me. They were only pretending to be my friend. I bet they've secretly hated me all the time. I bet they're hanging out with everybody without me. My brain seams together things that aren't true.
Thought it was just me being really sensitive. I've always been kind of an emotional person and sensitive to other people. I've also felt very socially awkward most of my life. If you watch my cringy stories video from when I was a kid, that gives you a pretty good idea of my social skills. And so my brain has worked overtime trying to understand and relate to people. And the frustrating thing about it is that I am authentic kind of to a fault. I don't know how to be anyone other than myself. And so I knew as a kid that if people didn't like me and I was just too weird for them, then there wasn't really anything I could do about it because I didn't know how to blend in or be whatever person they would want to play with or hang out with. So I just knew that like if they didn't like me, they didn't like me, and that would suck, and I would just have to be by myself. Yeah, so back to RSD, it's become a lot more intense as I've become an adult, but again, it's also probably because I recognize that that's what's going on. When they hurt my feelings or that perceived rejection, I kind of just shut down and I go into no interaction mode. You know, I can't handle eye contact as just a general thing most of the time, but especially when my mental health is bad and when I've been triggered, that's basically impossible. It almost caused me like physical pain to make eye contact with someone, so there's that. But I can't talk to the person. I can't like interact with them. It's not that I, don't want to, but it's like almost the physical sensation of my body just completely shutting down, and my voice is completely gone. I can't open my mouth, can't say anything. I'm just like, no emotions, nothing. I have learned, this has happened several times at work, and thankfully I have a really great team and manager who has learned this about me, and I have friends there. I've learned that if I catch it almost immediately, if I act and try to get myself to say something or do something to kind of break out of it before it fully sets in, then I can usually do a little bit better and say hey, that really affected me, that hurt my feelings. But the longer I let it go on, the harder it is. And I can't break out of it. And usually it takes till the next day for kind of a reset for me to interact with that person again. And that's also really frustrating because from the outside, I'm sure I look like over emotional and overly sensitive and kind of a bitch. because I just like shut down and I won't talk or look at the person. I spend a lot of time in that situation screaming in my head, wishing that I wasn't doing that. And I know I have gotten better, like I said, breaking out of it. And, you know, people have been pretty gracious with me. So that's very sweet of them. One more symptom that is really frustrating is the clutter. I have so much stuff, so many knickknacks, so many just things, and every surface everywhere in my room and living space is just covered. And the problem is, especially with dishes and trash and things like fast food, you know, it blends into the environment and I don't see it. I won't notice until I'm looking for all of my mugs and they're all in my room because I left them in here. It seems like probably to the outside like I just don't want to clean up because I'm so used to it being there. I don't actually register that it is there because of, again, executive dysfunction and my ability to just like block out the mess from my vision. I will live in a complete pigsty.
Avoid clutter by making sure every item in your home has a place where it belongs. When you're finished using that item, put it right back in its place. Instead of leaving shit out or setting things down all over the house, get a designated dumping basket for each room, so at least the mess is kind of contained and maybe eventually you can put it all back.
Medication has changed my life, and I mean that quite literally. The whole reason why I'm able to do YouTube, something that I have dreamt of for a long time and I enjoy doing, is because I got back on medication, got my brain back, so I completely reorganized my life, developed a new sleeping schedule so I have more time in the morning before work. I've stuck to that schedule, which was just seems so impossible, and I've been consistent, something that's very difficult for me, and that's all because I am medicated now. The issues with the food fixations is frustrating, but I would much rather be medicated. I don't want to go back to those months of just fog and not being able to break through it. I probably sound insane talking about how much I love Adderall. I've tried 4 different depression medications and 1 for anxiety. None of them have produced such significant, drastic results and made me feel like myself again so quickly and completely. Adderall is quite literally pulling a lot of weight and addressing all of these other things that I have. It's like that one meme where he's like, the soldier's blocking the kid. Yeah, Adderall does all of that for me. I wasted almost this entire year struggling to get back on medication and feeling frustrated and hopeless because I didn't have the mental energy or even the capacity to remember to make a phone call. It was like my brain, it just didn't work. It was hitting a wall. I would forget for months on end and then be really frustrated with myself, then remember and feel so awful for forgetting for so long, setting myself back so far, you know, like, why can't I just do this? And it was awful. But yeah, that took so long for me to get back on medication. It was even harder trying to get a therapist again. I'd been trying for 2 years, and it was like other people were making calls and sending emails for me and helping me pick them out, and it just was not working. The day that I finally had my first session with my current therapist, I like cried. It was such a hard process trying to get to that point that I was just emotionally, I was just overwhelmed that I didn't think I would ever get there. In conclusion, going back to the TikTok thing, I was very happy to see that the community is mostly people who are genuine. Hopefully, as time goes on, there's far less of people who are being ableist or picking out the qualities that they like in order to seem cute and quirky. I'm happy to see that there is a lot more content that is breaking stereotypes that have been harmful and that people are sharing their experiences. One thing that I thought was interesting, because I do know people who are autistic, this post really struck me, and it says, "It amazes me that autism and ADHD are 2 neurodivergencies that are very similar and literally share a lot of traits, but one is viewed as a catastrophic disease that needs to be eradicated and the other is not taken seriously at all." And so I hope that, like, moving forward, as we continue to create and share experiences, that people will take it seriously, because I think the idea that it's just a silly, goofy thing really hurts when someone is drowning and is struggling. You know, I was there. And on the other side, autism is not the end of the world. Hopefully this video made sense. I did take my meds today, but that doesn't mean that I actually, you know, I didn't order this in a cohesive script. That part's got to be done in the editing process. Yeah, kind of a different video than normal. It didn't come out nearly as like ranty as I was thinking it would. That's probably just because I was sleep deprived. Let me know your thoughts on this. Where's my ADHD? Yours at my neurodivergent gang. Give it a like if you like this video. Go ahead and subscribe. Double thumbs up. Finger guns. High five.